What they did this week was take another step offensively on that game-winning drive. They found themselves in an early third and long situation, but Jordan Love and company stayed composed. The pulse of the people is a complete 180 from where they were at yesterday, finding out that Adrian Griffin was let go in the middle of a season of what's actually been pretty successful. They're only 3.5 games behind Boston. That's some good advice to lean on, especially for Shaka Smart this past week, because along with missing Tyler Kolek, addressing that secondary is their biggest need. Cooper DeJean out of Iowa is a versatile DB. He's been linked to the Packers for quite some time and is considered the best available heading into day 2. Council said, quote, that he needs to do more homework before rounding out his coaching staff with the Cubs, but noted that Brewers bench coach Pat Murphy is technically not employed by Milwaukee right now. I need to see that again tonight, but on top of that, Jared Goff is no Patrick Mahomes. He can scramble, so you want to try to keep him in the pocket as much as you can. The Bucs will need to keep the ball moving on offense tonight and look for that second or third action. One big change for Terang this offseason was just building more muscle mass. He's put on about 20 pounds since the end of his rookie season. He also pointed towards their inability to shoot the 3-ball, saying it's those stat lines that'll keep him up tonight. And there's still homegrown talent that you can cheer for in this year's Final Four. Alabama head coach Nate Oates is not only a Wisconsin native, but it was right here in Watertown where his coaching career took roots. There's been a lot that's happened since Green Bay last walked off the field in San Francisco, so to catch you up to speed, sit down, pull out your notebooks, because it's time for a crash course with Packers Draft 101. But you've got to give Green Bay's defense their flowers as well. 5 sacks and 10 tackles for loss in today's must-win game. Teams locking up seeding in this year's playoffs, or in the Bucs' case, relying on others. The math was simple heading into Sunday. Beat the Magic, and it's a lock on the 2 seed. Get this, 19 years old, Jackson Trio is a name you're going to want to follow along this spring. And then Bryce Young also having a career game. And so, Lance, again, starting with you, do the Packers need to part ways at the end of the season with Joe Barry? The Milwaukee Brewers makeover continues. Manager Craig Counsell gone, Brandon Woodruff gone, and now former Cy Young pitcher Corbin Burns also gone. The biggest problem that the Vikings have had this season is the turnover battle. They've turned the ball over 30 times, 24 of those coming at the hands of a quarterback. So, hey, you've got a rookie in that offense leading this offense tonight. You got to take advantage of that, make them uncomfortable. Bark in the park night at AmFam Field, and while one could argue the Dogs were the one who stole the show, the Brewers also had that dog in them tonight. Let's pick up in the bottom of the first. Reese Hoskins, dog. Packers in the red zone on 3rd and 1. Love off his back foot finds Dontavian Wicks from 10. But to start the 4th quarter, special teams not looking so special, with Oso Ighodaro reading the pick and throwing it down on the fast break. A big jam from the big man. She tries to emulate her game after Kobe Bryant, and here's this. A step back fadeaway from 3 to beat the buzzer on the mound for Milwaukee. It was in his bag like Kendrick over the weekend. Just 1 hit and 6 strikeouts over 6 innings pitched. Since George Koonce can remember, football had always been the center of his world.
I dreamed a lot when I was in that little bedroom that I was in growing up, and I dreamed about playing in the National Football League, playing in playoff games, playing in the Super Bowl. A young vision he made reality. When I got here on June 1st and I signed my contract on June 2nd, 1992, things changed.
Koonce started 8 seasons with the Packers, reaching a pinnacle with Super Bowl 31. But when it was time to hang up the cleats, his toughest opponent was just on the horizon.
I thought I was prepared for life after football, but I wasn't at all. Depression set in, start self-medicating when it came to alcohol. And when that bubble burst, I struggled big time.
An internal battle that lasted years until a health scare became his wake-up call.
My mom would have been devastated if I would have lost my life in that car wreck.
How were you able to turn that negative into a positive?
I thought that I was a failure because I wasn't playing in the National Football League. And that was the furthest thing from the truth.
It came time to drop a new game plan, one centered on academics. With a PhD in hand, Dr. George Koonce has spent the last decade at Marian University fulfilling his new life purpose.
Dr. Koonce.
How you doing, my friend?
Come on in.
Come on in.
Advocating for education.
It's awesome that he cares so much.
At the beginning of this school year, Marian University officially launched the Dr. George E. Koonce Scholarships Program, giving students in need across Wisconsin an opportunity to pursue higher education.
Education provides opportunities. It opens doors, especially for our students who may not otherwise even consider that when they have so many other factors that are happening in their personal lives and in our community.
But his vision didn't stop there.
It was a lot bigger than what I expected, than it was on TV.
Trips up to Lambeau, and not for a game, but exposure to jobs outside of being a professional athlete.
It was very eye-opening and very inspiring because he didn't want us to focus on what he'd done in the past. He wanted to focus on what we're going to do in the future.
He's showing them that there's life and careers after professional sports.
Since September, more than 250 students from Milwaukee area high schools have visited Lambeau Field with Dr. Koonce. But along with showing off his old stomping grounds, the trip also serves as a lunch and learn.
They had really sat us down and really allowed us to really gain insight on things like tuition, scholarships.
I just want the kids to go to school, because if they go to school and get a degree, it's going to make Wisconsin better.
You had mentioned being that little kid in your small bedroom. If younger George in that moment knew what Dr. Koonce was going to be now, what would you tell him?
Well, put on your seatbelt. Put on your seatbelt, because we're going to have a wonderful ride.
In Fond du Lac, Ashley Washburn, Team J4 Sports. At the age of 5, Frank Zawrazky can remember sitting in his basement watching the Chicago Wolves, trying to remember as many players as he could on their roster, while also trying to stay up to date with all things in the American Hockey League. But that was also one of his earliest memories of also listening to hockey play-by-play, not only leading him to his dream career, but breaking down barriers along the way.
Hello again, everyone. High above the ice here at the Kettle Moraine Ice Center in West Bend, Wisconsin. I'm Frank Zawrazky.
With the headset on and spotting boards filled out, it's moments like this Frank says he feels most like himself.
The pace of it, the pace especially of hockey, there's no out of bounds. You're always on. And for my energy level, Ashley, that's what I want to do.
Chasing a career in play-by-play has always been Frank's dream.
The power are riding the storm out tonight.
But the path to getting here hasn't always been the easiest.
They didn't know what it was. I got my first neuropsych when I was 2 years old. They knew there was something different. Not a bad different, just something different.
And it wasn't until 4th grade Frank knew what that something different was. Autism. And more specifically, ASD1.
It really allows me to pick up things faster.
A strength his mentor even noticed.
He has a tremendous ability to recall games, players, moments in time.
And while Frank does not hide the fact that he's on the spectrum, it wasn't until this past month that he decided to share it with the hockey world.
The amount of conversations I had at the dinner table with my parents, it's like, well, why can't I just talk about it now? I'm like, Frank, there will be a time and a place to talk about it. You don't need to do it as soon as possible. You need to do it at the right time.
And for him, it was centered around finding a purpose.
When we interviewed Frank, that conversation never happened. And it wasn't until a couple of weeks later that Frank finally came up to introduce himself to the team, where he pulled me aside and he said, I've got some ideas and this is what I would like to do. And that's when he pitched the Autism Awareness Night.
I really hope to see you and your families out. Thanks again, everyone, and go Power.
Frank became the first ever openly autistic play-by-play announcer. But as more people learn about his story, he's hoping he won't be the last.
Hopefully we start a movement. Hopefully we start something where it's like, okay, if you're autistic in hockey or if you're autistic in any sphere of work, you know, it's not a detriment, it's a benefit.
And Frank shared with me that they were able to raise more than $3,000 for the Autism Society of Southeastern Wisconsin, a number he hopes will only continue to grow in year 2.